Let's get a definition of organizational communication from the Google machine. And I would use the word academic.
I have a Wikipedia definition that may not be acceptable. But
let's see if we like this Wikipedia definition. You have to sift through it first.
Danielle's already skeptical of me, I can tell. Within the realm of communication studies, organizational communication is a field of study surrounding all areas of communication and information flow that contribute to the functioning of an organization. Wow, there's a lot of redundancy.
Yeah,
that definition kind of sucks.
They like to hear themselves talk. Who's got a better one?
Wikipedia let me down.
What'd you get?
This is from mastersofcommunication.com.
Okay.
Organizational communication is a broad field that encompasses all forms of communication that allow organizations such as companies, government agencies, and nonprofits to function, grow, connect with stakeholders, and contribute to society.
Okay.
I just feel like these are obvious.
They're obvious, yeah. There's one that's much better than this.
I have one.
It's like 2 sentences.
Yeah, it says academic administrations use organizational communications to collaborate between departments and evaluate campus culture to determine whether there are any areas requiring improvement. Depending on the position, it may seem more time engagement with other administrators develop relationships with students.
Where's that from?
Indeed. I don't know what you popped up this first thing.
Jesse, what'd you get?
This is from Northwestern, and it's actually one of the classes there, and they say, this module will help students to understand and interact effectively with regard to the organizations that they engage with or depend for important life goals. Students will be encouraged to think strategically about how organizations can use technology to catalyze constructive, innovative, and mission-driven practices.
Wow, God, people are way wordy. Did you get the Ohio State one?
No.
What's your definition?
It's defined as interactions among a stable system of individuals who work together to achieve through a hierarchy of ranks and divisions of labor common goals.
Okay. Anybody get a better one? Everybody.
I don't know that it's a better one, but here's another one. Organizational communication is defined as the sending and receiving of messages among interrelated individuals within a particular environment or setting to achieve individual and or common goals. It is highly contextual and culturally dependent.
Okay, highly contextual and culturally dependent is a move in the right direction. Oregon, what'd you get?
Provide student, understanding of the role of communication in organization context. I would say it says
We went the opposite direction there, right? Okay. So OrgComm is the study, I mean, let's just define it really simply, right? It's the study of communication in organizations. There's an asterisk here because we have to first understand what an organization is, which looks like the book that Dr. Brown has for you about a work organization. But organizations don't stop at work. We'll get to that. So it's the study of communication in an organization with particular attention paid to what? Did anybody see that? Number 3, particular attention paid to what?
Common goals.
Goals is out there, so we'll say 2 goals. Methods is out there too, and flow. Flow between its parts. So the organizations have parts, and organizational communication looks at the flow of information between its parts. And when we look at the types of organizational communication that we'll study or that one studies, which way do you think communication can flow within an organization? Just generally, broadly speaking.
Down.
So we've got down. So for example, we've got downward communication.
Lateral.
So, yeah, I was gonna say, what's the opposite of this one? Oh. Yeah. So we've got upward communication, downward communication, and horizontal or lateral communication. Now, let me tell you where this information is coming from right now. I studied organizational communication as an undergraduate at Purdue with Mary Keener and Shiv Ganesh. That was the definition that we worked with. It also has a conduit theory to it, which means that organizations link to other organizations in the metaphor of a conduit using communication to link them together. You'll get there. But this is important in theory. You can get a whole PhD in organizational communication. You can study the various types of communication that takes place in the context of organizations. Let's talk really quick about what makes an organization. That's this little asterisk here. What makes an organization?
People,
Do people make organizations?
I would say so. In my
So, like,
humble opinion,
It's like a group of otters aren't an organization.
I guess they would be, yeah. That makes sense.
People make an organization. What are these people doing?
I'd say people with, who have who are working towards a common interest or goal.
Yeah, we've got a common goal. There's an organization, cultural organizational theory, and it states that there's like a common goal. They share a similar culture, which is what Danielle's definition was moving toward. And what else? What else makes an organization?
The product they produce.
I guess outcomes, culture,
Governance, some type of governance, some type of.
Google it really quick. Define organization. What's an organization? Governance could work, but then you've got grassroots people that are organizations that don't necessarily have governance.
Hierarchy.
Maybe that's upward and downward.
It says division of labor.
No, that's like organizing. What's the definition of an organization? There's got to be a better one than that one.
This one says is an organized body of people with a particular purpose, especially business, society, association, etc.
Okay, we'll go with purpose, which is like common goal. So you guys are on the right track. We don't want to spend a lot of time here, but is the KKK an organization?
Yes.
Yeah, fortunately.
Right, it's gross, it's disgusting, but it's an organization nonetheless. Are a group of people who are on Instagram who are demanding that the KKK be like brought to justice or something, are they an organization?
No.
I don't think so.
Yeah, maybe not. Like you have to say, oh, okay, it fits this one, it fits this one, but maybe some people are against the KKK because it's ruining like their town in Mississippi. But other people might be against it because it's just like disgusting and gross and racist, and that's bad. So it's not everything is an organization. Is a fraternity an organization?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, what's the goal though?
They also have
This is where sometimes
Networking.
the organizations get hard, because what's the goal?
they fundraise for charities.
Network.
Technically organization.
Yeah, they fundraise, they network. If you open on any fraternity's homepage, it's gonna say what? Yes, it's gonna have a mission statement. And in almost all these organizations that we'll study, or you'll study with Dr. Brown, there's gonna be some sort of mission statement. This body seeks to do this through this with the outcome of this while helping the world or something. So what's a fraternity one say?
Building young men.
Yeah, it's usually like building young men. It's character, it's scholarship, it's, yeah. So they're trying to know that it's an organization. Is LA Fitness Gym an organization? I would say even the members might be an organization, because even though the purpose of the people is different from person to person. Like yours might be weight loss, mine might be bodybuilding, yours might be endurance after something, you might have been going through rehab. So like all of our purposes might be different, but they're in the scope of the gym and we're all paying our money to go to LA Fitness. So therefore we're part of a culture. Now, no culture can be a culture, right? Is no culture a culture?
Yes.
I think so. I mean, yeah, like a lot of times people will say about the University of Tampa that there's no school spirit here. This is dying. It's getting lesser and lesser every year because clearly when there's 140 people in hammocks laying out in the sun, that's a culture. It's not a football game culture. You're just misnaming the culture. But we have a culture and there's spirit to it. Have you seen the new pool?
Thought about lifeguarding.
You might get kicked out if you're lifeguarding.
No, they're hiring lifeguards.
Are you serious?
But the class is when we have this class, or it's over at 5 in Clearwater. Getting from Clearwater to here in an hour ain't gonna happen
That's not gonna happen.
at 5 o'clock.
I was just seeing Carlton lifeguard. People were like, who's that? Now, huh?
I'm a former sponsored triathlete, so I can swim. I've competed, been a competitive swimmer, didn't win anything, but I tried.
It's not about winning, it's about trying. Why is it important to understand the definition of organizations when you're studying organizational communication? What do you think?
I'd say to know the approach on how to communicate and to like look at communication and know to look at the culture and the purpose. Because that probably be important. We're trying to figure out how to communicate with these groups.
Yes. And what about the upward, downward, and horizontal?
Communicate with your director, different people, communicate with your coworker.
Sure, and this is the part that's probably going to be appealing to many of you thinking about organizational communication in a professional sense. So if you are in human resources, marketing, advertising, sales training, media, you're going to want to think about how the message travels up the conduit and to the top of the organization. But you have to know who's at the top of the organization in order to send the message up top. And that's the problem that a lot of the unorganized organizations have. Who's the leader of this movement? Who is the head of this church? Who's the captain? And that's where you get into those leadership styles about like referent power and real legitimate power and all that. Now, what if you're a boss person at the top, if we're talking about professional communication, and you have to send a message down?
Gotta delegate
Delegate what?
information, tell people to tell people to tell people.
I know a guy, he knows a guy.
More or less.
I would say we need to understand what an organization is, so we understand the framework and the path and what the etiquette is for communicating in those various directions. But first, understand that those various directions do exist and how, what the expectations are for that organization.
Yes, so if we're looking down, you have to understand to whom is it that we are presenting this message?
Yeah, you don't want to come off as like talking down to someone,
No.
because then you get a communication major in school having drafting emails.
Yeah, you don't do that. And you don't want to talk.
Buddy. When you're
Okay,
trying
let's
to
talk about
communicate
buddy
with
for a second. This is one that's interesting too, is the horizontal communication of like, if you're sending information to people who are within the cultural level that you're advising or looking at. Now, what's missing from this whole thing? So we've got an organization, we've defined organizational communication, we've talked about upward, downward flow, horizontal, but there's something that we talked about in the 601 course, and we haven't mentioned it again, I don't think. The message and the communication model is where I'm going with this, but we have to think about something. Remember when we talked about communicating with publics? Not where shopping is a pleasure, but communicating with publics like the public outside. What is important to understand about where the message is going?
how it's being said.
Not how, I mean, maybe
Various
how.
interpretations that might come from it.
Who is sending?
Who? No, it's who, but it's internal or external. And this is the part, friends, that people don't get. So when you are putting together an analysis of communication flow within an organization, sometimes people start off the rails talking about, well, what are they going to think out there? And this. But maybe they need to be thinking about what their employees think first before they start thinking about what the public thinks. Two major corporations come to mind that will always have image problems between their internal employees and the external public. Can you think of what I'm thinking about?
Amazon?
No, it's more of like American industries that we cannot disentangle ourselves from them, but they are.
Automotive industry?
McDonald's.
Gasoline?
Think of something that gives you kind of like makes you feel gross. It's an American industry that makes you feel gross, but it's a necessity.
The government?
Healthcare.
Insurance.
Insurance.
Insurance industry is one where it's like, they try and save you money, but they try and not cover you. But then inside, when you go to work for them, they tell you the more insurance plans you sell, the more commission you'll make or something like this. So like when you're inside the organization, you're ripping people off, but when you're the person with cancer, you're fucked. You know what I mean? So it's like, well, okay, so how do you, as the public relations specialist for Humana, struggle with that? Have you ever thought of that, sir?
Dr. Clemens brought it up in the last class.
Oh, I'm sure in the ethics part, yeah. Yeah, which leads me to the second thing I'm thinking about. What's another big American industry that has this image problem?
Healthcare.
Pharma.
Pharma.
Yeah, healthcare is
General.
healthcare is an interesting one because I wouldn't say that healthcare is an organization. I don't know if other people would agree or disagree, but healthcare to me in the United States is so discombobulated that we can't say that they have a common goal, or doctors have a common goal to do no wrong and all that stuff. But like healthcare to be called an organization in of itself, it uses you're taking a lot of liberties maybe, and it could probably fit. But I'm thinking pharma. So like pharmacy companies are trying to heal the patient, but they have shareholders.
Oxycontin.
Yeah.
Opioid.
There's a Amazon show out there now about not Oxy, it's the other one. Is it Oxycontin? Maybe it is.
There's some kind of painkiller.
There's another pain, yeah. It's an opioid, they're mining town. And so the idea here is like, oh, we're gonna make you big money, Danielle. And so you're like, yeah, I wanna make big money. But you're making money off of sick people. So it's like, and so that's where, if we were to look at the organizational communication flow of, well, who is our public and what are we talking about? And is the message going up or down? This is why this part is so important. This class is so important. Understanding this is so important. Now, think about like government. Jesse said government is gross. Think about what just happened with the Supreme Court about the Roe versus Wade thing. How did that information get to the public? It was leaked,
Yeah.
right? Like capital L. And so when you think about someone up here who's like, man, it's gonna hit the shan, we gotta figure this out. So they're like, New York Times, hey, you know, and so like, it's not in the flow of the conduits, but we can get it out in Washington really fast. And you've seen every movie about this, like, you know, Glasslight and all those things where the people can't directly tell you, but I can leave it at your doorstep kind of thing. All of that sort of sidestep is looking at how the flow works through the organization. You got this? Want to take pictures of it? Anybody need to take a picture of it?
I'm gonna get one. I wrote it, but a picture's worth 1,000 words.
Okay, so we understand organizations, we understand the communications going on in organizations, and the conduit theory suggests it's going up, down, or between the various parts of the organization. Let's talk about the second half of the course title, which is what? Strategic communication. So let's go back to Google machine and define academic definition for strategic communication. How can we define strategic com? Yes.
Says academic strategic communication provides communication, marketing support, and oversight across academic affairs in concert with the university's strategic plan and in alignment with the unit. This is from the USTA. Brands, the team works closely with faculty and administrators and staff across the university.
Sounds like they're doing like a university
That
definition.
sounds like-
What'd you get?
Purposeful use of communication by an organization to fulfill its mission.
Yeah, that's the one that I kind of like. It comes up over and over again. The purposeful use by an organization is a little bit. And there's another definition out there that sort of lists the parts of the strat-com field that fall in line with what it is.
Concept, process, data.
It's a little simpler. If you keep looking, there's a strategic communication definition that says usually encompasses the various aspects of communication practice, including, and it lists things that we're all more familiar with.
Is it like audience analysis, goal setting?
It's a little bit more professional than that.
Advertising, public relations.
Yeah.
Media planning, brand strategy.
Slow down,
marketing.
please slow down. Advertising, public relations.
Oh, sorry. Media planning, brand strategy,
And
digital marketing.
Yeah.
Social media.
anything else? I'm gonna go ahead and throw in here integrated marketing.
Digital media. And account and media planning. So.
Okay, so let's talk about strategic communication for a minute. This is a moniker or a term that's become more popular over the last 10 years. 20, 30 years ago, the term that was really popular was public relations. So PR. And it's not wrong or it's not unpopular anymore, but public relations tends to have a little bit of a spin doctor feel to it, where like, we gotta make this go away. Where strategic comm comes along and is like, nah, we're strategizing how we're gonna fix this problem. And so you've, over the last 5 years or so, heard people say strategic communication. When you were looking for your master's degree programs, did anyone compare ours to a master's degree in strategic communication? There's one at FIU, there's one at Notre Dame. Nobody has looked at these?
I mean, I look not when thinking about the program, but thinking of moving to Georgia and then trying to see where is a college that has some type of program that I can continue in. There was nothing. University of Georgia is a football institution. South Carolina is like journalism. I'm like, oh, wow, well, back to where I go.
There you go. Surprisingly, there are a lot of them out there. And usually, if you were to do a master's degree in strategic communication, these would be your classes. And in our program, since it's professional comm, it's a little bit of a hybrid between more of the communication studies field, which is where you get like the culture and you get the ethics, and then the stratcom field, which is where you have this class, where you have digital practice, etc. And there's a bunch of corgis out on the God. This place.
You're just throwing fruit out here in the world.
Yeah.
It's all fun and games, so manatee eats you. So what I want to talk about here is your fields of study that you can look at with this program. So when you went home and told your family that you were going to study communication, did people ever say things like, oh, you're going to get a degree in talking? Or have you heard this journalism? You remember communications, no S, my first rant the day we ever met? Okay, or come back here, communications, no S. It's the communication flow between people within an organization. Y'all who want to use your S, here's your time to shine. So like if you're looking for the communications that your organization is purposefully using to communicate externally to its publics, are you going to plan some media communications? Are you going to do some digital marketing pieces? Are you going to have some social media spots? Okay, so you can use your S here because it's the communications that are going out. It's the channel part. Remember the communication model? That's your channel part. So I bring this up because I want you to think about over the next 5-6 weeks, if you are going into our field, these are the subfields that you'll be looking for jobs in. And when we did that job exercise in the first class, these are the things that came up. You probably had like brand strategist, media account executive, digital marketing manager, advertising account executive. And so I bring these up because I want you to pay particular attention to the actual field of communication that exists, because a lot of folks don't realize that this is a huge industry. And the bigger we get with the more social media presence there is, and the larger their problems there are in the world, these things will become more and more important. So you're not getting a degree in talking. You're looking at the strategies in order to create purposeful meaning within the organization or within the publics that you are looking at. Cool. I wrote this here, the integrated marketing my master's is integrated not talking, in integrated marketing communication. Sean Sawicki's is in that, Kristen Foltz is in that. I think all of us have like an advertising integrated marketing master's degree. And so I bring this up because I want you guys to pay attention to the actual business piece of this, because a lot of folks' capstones are very sort of like abstract, and they're talking about, you know, like race and music and, you know, women's lit and all this fun stuff. But a lot of it could append on here, like these things as well. And you can use these things to look at whatever your larger issue is. So now, if we go back to the classes, all right. If we go back to the classes, how can organizational strategic communication support the other courses?
Well, you could use the material, like if we're pointing at data analytics, to create our strategic communication plan.
Yes. And so this course being here, the digital analysis, what's
The ups unit or whatever the backup power is, to let you know that it's backup power.
We're gonna pretend we can't hear it for 2 more minutes. So Danielle's right. You guys learned in data analytics strategies like opinion polling, or we're gonna do a focus group, or coding, or qualitative inquiry, or whatever it was that you guys learned. And so now, if you have to put out a media piece quickly to women in their 30s, you should have been able to like figure out, okay, I need to throw together a quick Qualtrics survey and find out if women in their 30s are actually interested in this thing. Okay, how about the global communication design? How is that supported by this course?
Well, a lot of that dealt with dealing with different cultures, so you can kind of take a spin on that and like use workplace culture on how to identify and empathize with different cultures other than your own.
Yes, and you have to know who your audience is. The number one communication principle is to know the audience. You can walk into a room and blow it. You can walk into a room and make it happen. And so knowing who your audience is really, really important. This book, can I see? This book, this book I was looking at one Cam showed me earlier before class started. This is going to be the stuff where it looks at culture, and it looks at understanding the information of culture, and it looks at like why workplaces are certain organizations and what you can do to thrive in them. I'm guessing is what the thesis is in this book. Who does human relations department work for?
Say again?
In an organization, who does the human resources department work for? The company. So in an organization, we were all taught like human resources, like they're gonna take care of me. No, they work for the company. So think about like the culture of your company, and if human resources is there to support you, no, the company. All of that could come out of the global comm class. Leadership professional presentations, how does this class support that?
I would say when we understand which way the message is going and who has asked us to deliver that message is going to impact on how we craft it and deliver it.
Exactly. And I would argue that could even go further and say, our first course, leadership and professional presentation, dealt with like people and leadership roles, and the triggers book was understanding like the type of people we work with. And remember, we went on the leadership course and we talked at, the next night about like what roles people had. Well, now if we take this class that you're about to engage in, how do the different elements of communications support whom it is you're leading, right? If you have people who are shy, or if you have people that are outgoing, or those things, those are just micro levels, right? But 10 years ago, it was all the rage to understand the millennials. Oh, millennials are ruining the workplace. Millennials don't want to go to work on Friday. No shit, we don't want to work on Friday. No one has wanted to work on Friday except the baby boomers after the Industrial Revolution. It took a pandemic for everybody to realize you could work in pajamas. So they studied the millennials over and over and over again to see that this is how we need to correspond and work with this cohort generation. And now it's Gen Z and whatever. So strategic communication, purposeful use of comm to fulfill its purpose, advertising, public relations, media planning, brand strategy, digital marketing. All right. Now it's up to you, I think, from here to decide, okay, in my career, I'm going to spend more time going this direction, or when I look for jobs, I want to spin it this direction here. And so this degree here at UT will help you with these things, but you have to figure out what resume you want to put together. And that's why I say this now, because your capstone, if you're doing social media, Nick, you're going to have to spend considerable time with social media before you say like this one class helped you with social media, right? Or if somebody wants to be an account executive downtown in public relations, you have to think about how you want to spin that. There's a company in town that I got a couple of kids an interview with, but they just didn't know Tampa well enough. And that's no harm, no foul. I mean, those guys wanted that job, but like, if you're looking at, remember here, it was the external, internal communication. If I don't know who any of the players are in Tampa, I can't put you in front, you can't put me in front of like the Chamber of Commerce or yeah. So it's always important to know. So those students ended up in different roles, but Yeah,
Can I audit the higher education course? Because this is my last
Sure.
course of the degree, and I'm thinking that that's kind of a more formalized presentation of what you were talking about, teaching with a master's degree in communication, or no? Okay. All right, well, if it's not, then I don't.
No, I wouldn't say so, right? No, it's,
Yeah,
no.
it was more like communication design in the higher.
It's
academy.
a setting, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Okay, so we have defined organizational communication. We have defined strategic communication. This is the course. And so I hope you enjoy it. The book looks like it's gonna work quite nicely with it. And so what we're gonna do here is we're gonna change gears and do something else. All right, so. Oh, I wonder if this stopped recording when it.